everybody. Welcome. I am Anna Bryce, and I am the VP of Communications, and I would like to welcome you to our webinar today. We are very excited to have Matt Lehrman join us. It's been a while. I'm trying to think back. We had Matt speak for us about audience engagement was the topic at the time. And I would say it was at least 3 years ago, if not 4 years. And then Matt and I bumped into each other in an elevator a couple years ago at an event. So this is the first time I'm seeing him in quite a while. So welcome, Matt.
Thank you.
And I want to, again, thank everyone for coming. And I just want to thank our sponsors real quick, because they are the ones that help us all throughout the year and make this, make our events happen. And I want to particularly point out Taylor at Financial Potion, who is our host. Again, thank you, Taylor, for all these events that you have been hosting for us. We really appreciate it. And anybody who needs video, please be sure to talk to Taylor. And since I see another one of our sponsors just joined, I will mention her as well. Eileen Burek from Burek Communication Design. For your graphic design needs, please consider calling Eileen. And then we also would like to thank our supporters. These are the companies that all of us on the board work at, and they support us in our work for the AMA. So we thank them. And really, without any further delay, I would like to introduce Matt. Today's topic is how to revive your customer connection. And our presenter is Matt Lehrman of Social Prosperity Partners. He brings expertise in customer engagement, collaboration, and strategic planning to clients in business, nonprofits, and municipalities. He's promised us an espresso shot of a webinar today. And I think this is good. As I was just explaining to Matt and all my sleeping problems, an espresso shot is exactly what I need. So please use the chat function. Taylor will be monitoring the chat function. If you have any questions whatsoever, please go ahead and pop them in the chat, and we will present these questions to Matt at the end of the presentation. So really, without any further delay, let's begin. And Matt, welcome. And we are really excited to see you once again.
It's nice to see you, even as you're just a little box in the corner of my computer screen, and I'm grateful. Taylor, in order to get started, I need to ask you to allow me to share my screen, and I can't do that until you stop sharing yours. So if you wouldn't mind.
You are good to share whenever you are ready to share.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to share screen. I'm going to hit desktop 2. I'm going to share, and then I'm going to hit this little baby here.
Beautiful.
And my PowerPoint should now be in your screen. Is that true?
Yes.
Fantastic. So Anna, thank you for introducing me. Let me also right up front say a thank you to Nat, who months and months ago was the one who asked me if I'd be willing to do this. And really a special thanks to Taylor, who has just been great about setting up all the logistics and making sure that hopefully this works exactly the way it's supposed to. So it's all on me right now. We're going to talk about how to revive your customer connection. And I'll tell you at the very end, if you want a copy of all my slides, I'm happy to share it with you. But the first thing that you're going to want to do is grab your cell phone. You don't need it exactly at this minute, but you will in about 2 minutes. And so you're going to want to have it handy, because we're going to do a little bit of back and forth, and you're gonna enter some stuff right here into this PowerPoint presentation. But before we get to that, let's just acknowledge that this is a moment of disruption and change and uncertainty for all of us, for our companies, for our community, for our families, for us personally. And I'm going to suggest that we resist calling this situation that we're all in right now, that we resist calling it the new normal. I don't think this is the new normal. I think we'll know when we're in the new normal, when we can organize for the near future and we can plan for the long-term future. But frankly, I don't think anyone really feels comfortable making long-term plans at this moment. So that's not the new normal. Instead, I'm going to suggest that we call this the raw normal. And in the raw normal, our job is simply to understand what's going around us at the moment, make adjustments on the fly, and then open up a bottle of wine at the end of the day and celebrate that we made it through the day and that we get to persevere again to do it again tomorrow. So this presentation is all about being tactical rather than being strategic. I'm not going to teach you anything that you probably don't already know. I'm going to focus on things that we all know that we need to be doing. So Anna was right. I call this an espresso shot. So I'm going to very quickly deliver 12 tactics. I'm going to aim for doing it in about 36 minutes, more or less. But you might come away from this at the end going, well, Matt, this was nothing new here. You didn't shake our paradigm. This was systemized common sense. And you know what? If that's what I deliver, then that's exactly what I aimed for, because this is a time for discipline. This is a time to make sure that we're filling in all the gaps and to make sure that what I'm offering you is actionable in this moment. That probably means that not all 12 of these things will relate to you and your business, but I'm hoping that everyone can at least take away one thing that is actionable. And then at the end, we'll decaffeinate and we'll have plenty of time for questions and discussion. Okay, so if you've got your cell phone handy, here's what I'd like to ask you to do. I'd like to ask you to join an online poll that I'm creating right now. It's in a service called Poll Everywhere, and you join it by texting the word public to the number 22333. So it's texting the word public to the number 22333. Let me assure you, your responses, your participation is anonymous-ish. That means no one can see what you're doing, except if someone does something that's really outrageous or inappropriate. I do have the ability to go back and see the phone number that it originated from, but we're not doing that. And there is no cost to do this, except if your plan, you get charged for text messages, that's on you. And there's no marketing connection to this. I will have no further contact with you. You'll get nothing else after this particular session is done. So if you've texted the word public to the number 22333, you will have gotten a bounce back message that says you've joined Matt Lehrman's session. And that means that you're ready for question number 1. So we're going to just jump right into it. And I want you to answer this question. You're just going to text one word back. I'm looking for a one-word answer to this question. In one word, I'd like to know, what's the mood of your customers right now? In one word, what's the mood of your customers? You decide what the word is. I'm not sandbagging this. I'm not going to suggest anything, but I want to hear your assessment of what is the mood of your customers, and we're going to create a word cloud together. And look, someone's responded and they put the word frustrated. And here's the cool thing about creating a word cloud. It's going to take all the answers that you give. Cautious just showed up on the screen as well. It's going to take all the answers that come in. And if more than one person says the same word, then those words are going to grow. That's what a word cloud does. So I see cautious and frustrated, but I also see optimistic, which is fascinating as well. I know that there's like 10 of us on the call right now. There's 13 of us. That includes me. So there's 12 of you on the call. I would love to see a few more answers come through. Optimistic, cautious, stressed, frustrated. I'll give you one more minute to put in anything else that you want to add to this. And while you're doing that, stressed, oh, I see the word scared. I'm going to give you one more chance. You can vote again. You can add another word if you want, or you can vote again for a word that you've previously offered or another word that's on there. I'd like to get a sense from you right now at this moment what the mood is of your customers. So go ahead and put another word in. It can be a new word or repeat something that's already there. If you, oh, someone just entered stressed, and again, so that word just jumped out really big. Tell me what else is the mood of your customers in this moment. I'm only going to give you about another 10 seconds and then we're going to move on here. Someone else said stressed as well, but cautious, inventive. Your customer's mood is inventive. That's really interesting. Your customers want to persevere. They're optimistic. They're frustrated. They're scared. They're impatient. That's an interesting word. And stressed has grown even more. All right, 3, 2, hit enter right now if you've got anything else here. All right, confused, optimistic, but stressed is the leader here. That's question number 1. I want you to remember for our conversation today that the mood of your customers overall, the leading word was stressed. Now we're going to do this one more time. Whoops. We're going to do this one more time. And here's question number 2. Again, I'm looking for a one-word answer from you. And in this one word, I would like to know, what is the mood of your team? What is the mood of your team? Now, you might be in a one-person office, so the mood of your team might be your mood. Or like me, I'm self-employed, but my mood might be what my wife's mood is about the work that I'm doing. Or it could be your board of directors or whoever it is that you work with. I'd like to know something about the mood of your team, of the people to whom you're accountable and the people who you work with. What is the mood of your team at this moment? I'll give you just another couple of seconds here to put some answers in. The mood of your team is done. I can't wait to hear what done is about. Oh, your team is stressed as well. They're frustrated. Your team is responsive. That's interesting. They're optimistic. I'd love to hear that your team is optimistic. I'm glad that not everyone is feeling stressed at this moment. Go ahead and enter a second word if you wish, or repeat a word that is already on the board, because I just like to get one word to see if we can make it jump out and see. The mood of your team is disconnected, but it's also hopeful.
Hey, Matt, that was
Yes.
supposed to be get it done, not done. So
Anna does not understand.
one word.
One word. That's fine. So responsive, comfort. The mood of your team is comfort, optimistic, disconnected, stressed, frustrated. Anna's team is get it done. I'm not so surprised, Anna, that your team would be get it done. And look, there's not one word that's jumped out a bunch of everyone. In other words, there's a lot of moods going on in your team. This is useful to know. We felt stress at the beginning, and then we feel a myriad of issues right now. I'm totally fine with that. Now we're going to zero in on what it takes to revive our customer connection in this light. So understanding that to revive is a function of supply and demand. Supply is your side, the company side of the equation, and the demand is the customer side of the equation. So I'm just going to go through these points, and we're going to start on the supply side, on your company side, and I'm going to offer you 12 tactics. So we're going to go through them lickety-split right now. Here's tactic number 1. It's about having a mantra to take care of yourself. And the mantra that I suggest to you is a simple inward, outward, forward. Inward, outward, forward. Just keep repeating inward, outward, forward. And what I mean by that is that when you are focused on inward, that you are thinking about how you connect for yourself and your family. Are you eating right? Anna, are you sleeping enough? Are you taking care? Are you connecting with the people that make it possible for you to be healthy and sane in this moment? I called out Anna because she told me she went to bed at like 3:45 in the morning last night or this morning. For when you talk about being outward, I mean, how do you present yourself to your friends and your neighbors and even your company's suppliers, the people who you depend on? That's like putting on your makeup in the morning. It's, are we talking to them in a polished sort of way? But forward is the important one. You can't move your company forward. That is your team and your customers unless you've taken care of the inward and the outward first. And I'm going to share with you my own little example of this because I started preparing this presentation and first started offering it in late March, just as the COVID pandemic struck. And it occurred to me at that moment that my wife and I had moved into this house about 1.5 years earlier. We had left our house of 28 years on the other side of town, and we didn't know our neighbors here. And with the nature of a pandemic, we thought we should know our neighbors and they should know us. And I dashed off this little note and I taped it to the front doors of the 10 houses closest to us in our neighborhood. It had our name, our email address, our cell phone numbers, everything that you need to contact us with this sentence in particular. It said, we're home, we're friendly, we're always willing to help. Now, not all of our neighbors responded to it, but many did. and they were grateful to know us. But of course, we also put it on social media. That's what we did. Hashtag 10 neighbors. It blew up on Nextdoor to the point where someone from Channel 3 called me and said, hey, we'd like to do an interview with you over the computer, and we'd like to talk about your hashtag 10 neighbors campaign. It turned into a full-blown 4-minute interview segment on Channel 3. I'm not saying that this started as a marketing endeavor in any way. My point to you is simply, when you take care of inward, outward, forward, you will find gaps. And when you fill those gaps in, there are riches to be earned from the work that you do there. Please take care of yourself. You can't take care of anyone else until you've taken care of yourself. Number 2 is you got to take care of your team. And this should be obvious. And I'm going to use Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because it says that, with our team members, we take care of their basic needs usually by paying them wages. And we take care of the psychological needs by creating a culture of belonging, a culture of recognition and of promotion, and the unity of purpose that we need in our company to do the things that we do and to deliver on the promises. That unity of purpose exists because our wages and our culture have covered basic and psychological needs. But the nature of this pandemic and the economic fallout from the pandemic means that we need to turn this pyramid on its head and understand that we can't assume that wages and culture alone is enough to take care of our team, that we as leaders of our companies are responsible for caring for the psychological needs and even the basic needs of our team members. So I ask you, what have you done in the last 6 months to take care of the psychological and basic needs of your team members? And I'm not saying you got to be the president of the company in order to do this, but how have you reached out to let people know that you care about them, that if they need any help, that you're available to them, that you've given them a chance to vent? Back when we were all scrambling for toilet paper, it'd be a pretty vivid example of what it means to be suffering about basic needs, but people still have family members and cash flow issues and fear about going out into the public, and sometimes we need to take the initiative. And I bring this up and emphasize it because, like many of you, I've spent a lot of time on airlines, and there's a particular airline that I won't mention whose flight attendants are routinely surly. And every time I'm on that flight, I wonder, how poorly must management treat those flight attendants for them to be able to treat their customers the way they do? And what would a good management mean in terms of the customer service that I receive from those flight attendants? Same thing for you. If you want your team members to revive your customer connection, then you've got to take care of those team members as well. All right. In the next one, we're going to talk about the nature of connection. I am still on the supply side of the equation, and I want you just to have a mental image of the difference between a chain and Velcro. And not just a chain, but a chain with a clasp in it, because a lot of business people that I know are focused on the value proposition, that the nature of your customer connection is that you have a value proposition, that you solve a problem that the customer has, and you offer it at a fair price, and that's enough to keep things going. And a value proposition is the clasp on that chain. And some organizations have a clasp like this, and some have a clasp like a freight car coupler with great steel. And my point is just to put that visual image in there, that a value proposition is a coupler. It's a single point that holds together, but you are responsible for looking for the customer connection as Velcro, as being many different touch points that enable you to serve them and to feel connected to them in different ways. I'm going to give you my little cheat sheet on how to do that. This is what I'll tell you what it is in a second. So if quality and value is assumed, I'm not saying that quality and value isn't important. In fact, quality and value is critical. I've never seen a company that didn't say that they offered quality and value. But what I am suggesting to you is that beyond quality and value, your customers value the convenience you offer and your personal level of service and the feeling of confidence that they have and the feeling of specialness that you impart to them and their sense of belonging. And this is what I call the Girl Scout cookie test. And the Girl Scout cookie test is as simple as this. And I won't belabor the point here because you're going to get it. The value proposition of a Girl Scout cookie is really quite simple. It's a sugar delivery system, and it has to taste good. At the end of the day, if nothing else, no matter what else they do, if the cookie doesn't taste good, no one's going to buy it. But after that value proposition is taken care of, what's left is that it's a personal ask that's made, because when your next door neighbor rings your doorbell and says, "Hey, Anna, would you like to buy some cookies?" Who's going to say no to that? And if Nat, if they knock on your door and they say, "Hey, it's Girl Scout cookie season, and you can't get these all times of the year, and if you really want your Samoas," those are my personal favorite, you gotta do it now. Now is the season. That's a way of adding a feeling of specialness to what they're selling. You want a sense of confidence? Well, you're supporting the Girl Scout organization. You're supporting leadership training and entrepreneurial training for young women. And how important is that? Do you feel a sense of belonging? This is the troop in your community. You know that you are supporting youth right there. And could they make it any more convenient? Of course not, because every time I go to the grocery store, the Girl Scouts are there with their table, and they are making it totally easy for me to buy Girl Scout cookies on the way in, and especially on the way out of the store. I'm going to leave you with this little bit of homework assignment. You don't have to do it right now, but the homework assignment is simply this. How would you spark more supply side, that's your side, customer connections? And my little homework assignment for you, and when I send you the slides, you'll have this little sheet, is you just put in the left side one or two of the things that you sell. And you put a big X in whichever box is the dominant way that you are primarily selling that right now. Perhaps you are doing a sales pitch to someone and everything is tailored and you've got to give them a proposal. That would be personal. That would be you've created a personal proposal for their consideration. My question for you is, what could you do to add additional check marks to this so that you are presenting your company in additional ways as well? I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm not saying that you have to change what you're doing. I'm not saying you shouldn't do any of these things. And I'm not saying there's a hierarchy here that any one of these is necessarily better than any other. I'm just saying that, like Velcro, the more connections you can make, the stronger is your customer connection. Can you make it more convenient? Can you turn a service into a product that someone could just buy off of your website with no other interaction? What could you do to instill confidence in your customer even more? Do you need to tell them more about the awards that you made? Or is it about the guarantee, the money back guarantee that when you buy this, it solves your problem or whatever it is? I could talk more about these, and I'll save more discussion till we get to the questions and discussion. I would love to tell you more about that. But now I'm going to push us forward to the demand side of the equation. And on the demand, let's just think about this for a second. We talk about supply and demand, but in reality, the challenge that we're all facing in our business with our customer connection is not a problem of supply and demand. I mean, we have the supply, we have the capacity to do things, and the demand didn't go away. The cord was cut. The pandemic required that we separate and that we can't do this. So there's an actual break, an actual separation here. So restoring this, finding the link here, we have to do more than just activate a sense of demand. We have to re-bridge that severed link. And this is how we're going to do this from the demand side. First, we're going to acknowledge the uneasiness which we all feel as customers. I would ask you the rhetorical question. In fact, before everyone arrived, Anna and I and Taylor were talking about this. We were talking about what makes you anxious when you go out as a customer. When you go to the grocery store and you have to wear the mask. And I'm conscious that I'm breathing and I sound like Darth Vader. And I'm looking at people whose noses are sticking out over and I'm going, what don't they understand about the respiratory system that they can't put their nose under the mask? I mean, what are the things that make you anxious? What are the things that make you angry? Or what are you aware of when you're out there? We need to understand this, and with our customers, we need to acknowledge the uneasiness that they feel. Mr. Rogers has a wonderful quote. The full quote is, "If it's human, it's mentionable. And if it's mentionable, it's manageable. And I would tell you the very quick story that back in April, I had to go out and buy new running shoes. I run frequently. I'm not a very fast runner, but I'm a persistent runner. And I decided in April that, you know what, I need to support local. I understand the significance of it. And I went to a local running store here. And I was so aware of my anxiety. It took me a half an hour to get there, half an hour to come home. I waited 15, 20 minutes for them. You know, they were the people. And I was so aware of my anxiety that on the drive home, it started boiling over. It's like they didn't even thank me for going out of my way to do business with them. I could have bought the same exact sneakers on Amazon. I could have paid exactly the same price. I made the decision that I was going to go out and do this. And so I did what, you know, anyone does in the year 2020. I vented on Facebook. Well, I forgot that one of my friends on Facebook is Kimber Lanning, the founder of Local First Arizona. And here I just vented about this local business that didn't appreciate me when I went out. And Kimber responded. And she says, hey, I promise they're wonderful people and they're scared and they're trying to get it right and they're trying to keep the doors open. And she said, I apologize, they miss you, but they're grateful more than you know. And then, of course, Kimber knows me. So she said, and I thank you, Matt, for the extra effort you put in today. It means a lot. And then she went on to say, and by the way, I've been thinking about this and wanted to ask, when was the last time Jeff Bezos said thank you for your purchase? I'm just saying. Now, honestly, Jeff Bezos doesn't have to say thank you. Jeff Bezos makes ordering easy. He makes the price easy. He makes returning easy. He makes next door delivery to my house easy. I mean, there's no part of that he has to say thank you other than delivery. But in our businesses, when we're talking to customers, we have to say thank you. And more than just say thank you, we have to acknowledge the uneasiness that a customer may feel. And we don't exactly know what the source of the uneasiness is. Sometimes they're afraid of being around germs. But I was reminded earlier this week that some people are annoyed that the government is making them wear masks in the first place. And that's their uneasiness. All I'm saying is that we are responsible to respond or to anticipate customers and respond to them with what I call emotional intentionality. And I do my little quadrant chart just to kind of put out here the idea that some of our customers are in it just for the logic. You're the best price, you're the solution that they need. Some of our customers understand that the purpose of doing business is to solve a problem that you are uniquely able to do. Some of our customers are looking for excitement. They enjoy us. They enjoy the atmosphere of working with us. They enjoy Nat's personality and his wonderful sense of humor. I'm sure that's true. And there are some for whom pulling at the heartstrings, they just feel that it's important, that they recognize your business and they want to continue to support you. Whatever is the feeling, we need to train ourselves and our team to anticipate that and respond to it. And I took a little effort here. I'm not suggesting you use this literally, but I just tried drafting the kind of thank you note that I wish the running store that I had gone to had given to me, maybe even just slipped it into my bag. A simple note that said something like, thank you. We recognize that your decision to do business with us today carries special meaning. We appreciate that you've made visiting us a priority and that you've trusted us with your health. And we're grateful for the opportunity to share smiles, even if they're covered by face masks. You've rewarded us for the team effort and dedication it takes to sustain our business through profoundly challenging times. And we're tremendously grateful and look forward to seeing you again. Again, don't use my exact words, but use the sentiment here to make sure that you're thanking all of your customers in appropriate ways. All right. Here comes number 5. This is about renewing your meaningful connection. I'm going to show you a 60-second TV commercial from United Airlines that aired in 1989. And I really hope that when I shared my screen that I hit the right button. You know what? I need to double check something because I bet you I didn't. And you're not going to hear the sound if I don't do it. I'm going to stop my screen share for a second, and I'm going to come right back just to make sure we did it right. So hang on a second. And we're going to share screen, and I need to share computer sound, and go back here and share again, and apologies. Here we go.
Phone call this morning.
Oops, we try one more time. Ready, set, go.
I got a phone call this morning from one of our oldest customers. He fired us. After 20 years, he fired us. Said he didn't know us anymore. I think I know why. We used to do business with a handshake, face to face. Now it's a phone call and a fax. Get back to you later. With another fax, probably. Well, folks, some things gotta change. That's why we're gonna set out for a little face-to-face chat with every customer we have.
But Ben, that's gotta be over 200 cities.
I don't care. Thanks.
If you're the kind of business that still believes personal service deserves a lot more than lip service, welcome to United.
Larry. Lewis.
That's the way we've been doing business for over 60 years.
Ben, where are you going? To visit that old friend who fired us this morning.
United. Come fly the friendly skies.
I love this commercial. And my question to you is, how are you renewing the meaningful connection with your most important customers? So if you were one of the people that Ben was just sending out into the field and you were contacting your most meaningful customers, I want to know, what are the questions that you would ask? And I'm going to suggest the 3 that I think are the most important. This is not rocket science here. Question number 1 is, how are you? And some people are going to go, we're fine, we're good. And some people are going to go, we're sick and we're worried and we're fearful. And if someone is sick and worried and fearful, you're not going to be in sales and marketing mode. You're going to be in human mode. And you're going to see if there's a way to help them. Because if they're one of your most meaningful connections and you've reached out, then this is a time to support them. But if they're in an okay place, this is the great time to say, what are your challenges or your priorities, or what are the opportunities that you're focused on? And third is, how can I help you achieve that? That's the core of what a meaningful connection is all about. So now you've made the decision to spend an hour here today with AMA, and I'm grateful for you to do it. But here's my little test to see if this little investment of time is worth your while. I'm going to suggest that the test is you have 24 hours from right this minute to renew the meaningful connection with someone who maybe you've been putting off for some time. Identify at least one person in your Rolodex and start a conversation with one of these 4 starters. It's either, hey, it's been a long time since we talked. I was just wondering how you're doing. Or it's, hey, I'm new and I was hoping we might get to know each other a little bit better. Could we take a few minutes and just talk? Or, hey, who else at your office might value knowing me and understanding our deep commitment to your business? There's been a lot of turnover at companies right now. And if your whole relationship at one company is based on one person and that person leaves, you might be starting at 0. That's a really important question. Or it might be a simple, hey, would you be willing to help me think about ways that we might be of even greater service to you or to other people like you? This is what it means to renew your meaningful connection. Here comes number 6. So maybe those were your biggest customers, the most important. For all of your customers, this is a moment to get substantially smarter. The motto that I typically say here is leading is learning. Leading is learning. If you are not learning, you are not leading. So what is the Survey Monkey, or however you do it, where you're asking your customers, and maybe just 5 or 10% of them every month, what's your mood and how likely are you to do business with us? And how else could we offer additional assistance? What are you doing to put your finger on the pulse? That if people are saying on a scale of 1 to 5, if every month they've been saying they're a 2 or a 3, and then you surveyed them here in the month of September and it went to a 1, what does that tell you? Versus what if it goes to a 4? How do you respond to that? You got to get substantially smarter. I want to remind us that signage, everyone's doing it, but it's not nearly enough. I went down to Kierland and the promenade and snapped a whole bunch of pictures of all the kinds of signs that are up. And I just want to remind us all that signage is not enough. And the best way to remind us of that is to show you 48 seconds of one of my favorite Seinfeld episodes. And here it comes right now. Signage is not enough.
Ha ha, Jerry. Tonight you in it for a real treat. I'm personally going to prepare the dinner for you and the Mayodri.
Jerry, you okay? anything wrong?
What happened?
You look like you've seen a ghost.
Need I say anything more? I'm watching Anna. I can see you in my little window here, Anna. You're cracking up. Signage is not enough. We have to do more than that, which gets me to point number 8, which is we have to create rituals in our company in the way we do business that recognize the changed sensibilities under which we're operating. How many of you, when you go to the grocery store right now, it's not just that you want to know that the carts have been sanitized. You want to see that someone has actually done the sanitizing. You want to see the person. If there's just a bunch of carts there, I'm going to ask, I don't know about you, I'm going to ask, have those carts been sanitized? I need someone to give me the affirmation of that. If I walk into a store and I see a sanitation station, it's not enough that it's standing there. I want the salesperson who's approaching me to go to the sanitation station first and take a pump and do this with their hands and then approach me and say, how are you doing? Because that's how I know that it's been actually done. And look at this email that I got from Shutterfly. This was back in March or early April. It said all the right things. It said, as we face the uncertainty of the moment, we're all in this together. It was great words. But they forgot the ritual of putting the campaign in front of someone and saying, does this look good? Am I missing anything here? Because in this moment, who wants to see a picture of kids touching hands to each other where that doesn't evoke feelings that there's a viral load being conveyed from one to another? What is the ritual that you've put in place where you're just asking people, are we missing anything here? Is this proper for the moment that we're in? And speaking about the moment that we're in, we've talked about this as if this was just about the pandemic and maybe even the economic ramifications of the pandemic. But this is a serious moment as well for recognizing systemic racism and to appreciate the importance of the statement, Black Lives Matter. And so we need to elevate our own business practices and ask, what are we doing to recognize and learn and affect real change in the way we do business? I found this wonderful article, and you'll see the link when I send you the slides, for 7 ways businesses can value Black lives beyond social media posts. And they list them all out. And I include this especially because number 7 says we have to recognize privilege. And as I was preparing this presentation, it occurs to me, I could have left this out completely. I didn't need to say it. And that would be recognizing privilege. The fact that, you know, some of us have the privilege to say, we don't need to talk about that. That's not our problem, is exactly why we need to bring this conversation into everything that we do. I'm still working my way through the book, White Fragility. If you haven't listened to the 1619 Project, these are good places to start if you're not there already. My key point here is to say that for all of us, the future is unknowable, but it's incredibly malleable. We have the chance to do a lot with it. So we need to respect, number 10, what has changed and what hasn't changed. This will help you this will keep you from going crazy, because what hasn't changed is that your customers, they still value you. They know that you've got quality. They haven't forgotten you. They still appreciate you. But what has changed from the customer's perspective is their capacity and urgency and priority and loyalty. And you can't do anything about that in this moment. You'll sleep better if you just recognize that there are some things that have and haven't changed, and you can't do anything about certain ones. Number 11 is that we have to find new relevance for ourselves. The value proposition for you is not just that you solve a customer's problem. The value proposition is that you also contribute, that by doing business with your company, your customer contributes somehow to the recovery and health and collaborative spirit of our community as a whole. Connect your customer to the higher vision of what you're aiming for, and then you are exciting them deeply, and you are giving them meaning beyond just signing off on the proposal that you've given to them for their own particular business. This is the ideal time to invest more meaning in the work that you do. And finally, my point is that there is strength in togetherness. And, you know, George Bernard Shaw has a wonderful saying. He wrote, if you have an apple and I have an apple and we exchange these apples, then you and I each still have one apple. But if you have an idea and I have an idea and we exchange those ideas, then each of us walks away with 2 ideas. So for the last question I'm going to ask you today, and this is the perfect lead into the questions and discussion, is I want to ask you, what is something that is working in your company's customer connection right now? And you're not limited to one word. You can write a whole paragraph if you want. You can dictate it into your phone since we can't hear you, and you can put it right in, but do it right now. Send a text message in right now with what is one thing that is working in your customer connection right now, something that you would share with others that they might find useful as well. Take your time, but you've only got about 30 seconds to do this because we're gonna hit the end of our time together. So what is something that is working in your customer connections right now? Regular follow-ups are working for some. Online meetings is working for someone else. What else? I'm sure Nat is writing a really big, long thing here. It's going to go on for a ways. Nat, keep it kind of short because we want to make sure that we get to talk to it. Only about 15 seconds left, so hit your enter key really soon. Meeting how they want to meet. I imagine that means some people still want to meet in person, socially distanced. Some people want to meet through Zoom or on some other platform, and perhaps time of day matters to them as well. I know if I want to talk to Anna, I'm aiming for that 2 to 3 a.m. Time period. Regular follow-ups, constant communication, online forum, bi-weekly syncs and touch points and online meetings. Maybe when we get into the Q and discussion here, we'll talk about this a bit more. I imagine some of you have questions about what did this mean? How did you do this? Or what did this mean for you? Asking about life beyond work. That's another great way of putting meaning into the work that you're doing. I'll give you 5 more seconds. Anyone else has anything they want to add to this? Go ahead and hit enter now, and we'll move forward. So I want to say thank you again. I want to say thank you to Anna. I want to thank Nat. I want to thank Taylor. You're a great organization, and it's been a long time since you had me, but I'm always thrilled to come talk to you. I really appreciate the energy that you all put into your association and your work together. I just applaud the collaborative spirit. If any of you want to know about the work that I do, I'll just send you to my website, mattlehrman.com. It's a brand new website. That's what I did during the early days of the pandemic. Realized I needed to position myself better. And if you want to talk about possibilities, that's strategic planning and loyalty and customer engagement and all those kinds of things, I'm here for you. Hey, I told you if you want to get a copy of my slides, I'm happy to do it. While you have your cell phone handy, I'm going to give you a different number. This will put you right into my email list. If you do it within the next hour, I will go ahead and send you a copy of the slides. I'll even include all the text messages that you entered here, so everyone will have that as well. You just text the word tactics, TACTICS, to the number 66866. It's a different number than the one we did for the polls. Send the word tactics to the number 66866. And by the way, one of the things that I'm going to offer to AMA members, if you just have a quick question about this, you're wondering, how do I relate this to my business? I'm going to send you a link and you can do a chat with Matt. It's a 15-minute quick conversation. You can schedule it on my calendar. And I'm just happy to have a one-on-one with any of you that just want to talk about the challenges that you're facing in your business right now. With that, Anna, it's time for questions and conversation. I don't think you need my slides at the moment, so I will stop sharing and we'll just all be back together again.
Okay, great. And by the way, Matt, when you send me the presentation, I'll also send it out to everybody, but that's good if they text you as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Taylor, do you want to go through the questions with him?
All right. Yes, I do have a few written here. And definitely, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. And so just to get started, Matt, you talked in the beginning about how we shouldn't call it the new normal. We should call it the raw normal. And so are you suggesting that we should be completely focused on the moment, what's happening right now, and maybe not have a long-term strategy? This current situation appears to be lasting a lot longer than we've all have expected, and that we can't even predict it anymore. So what are your thoughts on that?
So I think that that this is a lot like if you were hiking in a snowstorm, I think we've gone blind. I mean, we just don't know how to pursue our strategic plan. How do you know what to do in 3 years or 5 years from now when we can't even plan for 90 days from now to know if, you know, if we'll be back visiting with people or if we'll be back together and what the economy is going to do and all the rest that's going on here. So instead of strategic planning, I still believe in strategic planning. It's still important you have a strategic plan. But in this moment, in this raw normal, I would suggest something that I call an imperative plan. And an imperative plan is different than a strategic plan. And I created the idea of the word imperative plan. So the idea is that if you were blinded in a snowstorm, you would just be 1 foot in front of another, trying to stay safe, trying not to fall, you know, off a cliff in the process here. So instead of a strategic plan, which says, here's how we want to move our organization or our company in a certain way, an imperative plan looks at your constituents. It might be your employees and your key customers and certain segments of your customers and your suppliers and your investors and anyone else that you're working with, and ask a question, what do we do to move, how are they feeling right now, and what do we want them to feel 30, 60, 90 days from now? And if you focus on how you want people to feel, then we will figure out the actions that make them feel that way in this time. It's a different way of orienting because our core job right now is to sustain the sense of purposefulness of our organization. We have to keep people's confidence. We have to keep our customers' confidence. Even if things are crazy behind the scenes, if we focus on managing how they feel, then whatever we have to do behind the scenes to deliver on that, that's worth it. So not strategic plan, not corporate, but feelings in the short term.
To talk on feelings a bit more, you know, how do you train your staff on emotionally intentionally? You know, it seems that that skill isn't just about recognizing the customer situation, but knowing how to respond to it productively. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so emotional intentionality is my way of saying we have to anticipate that there's a lot of different things going on. There's just a quick answer to it. Doing the little kind of thank you note that I said, to me is kind of a structural way of answering it, which is you just build into the process a thank you note that's appropriate for your business. Not everyone has shopping bags that they can stuff a note into, but structurally a message that kind of covers all 4 of those bases. It covers, you know, that they came for a purpose and they came for, you know, logic and et cetera. And then with our staff, we need to train to look for cues. We need to ask questions that reveal, you know, how are you feeling right now? You know, thanks for coming in the door. How are you doing at this moment? Are you okay? When I went and bought my sneakers at the running store here, I was thinking, I didn't sit down. I didn't touch anything when I was in there. And I was probably sending off some visual cues. Like I was probably in a pretty closed kind of here, like this. The person who got the sneakers for me, and I had called ahead, by the way, to make sure they had my sneakers in my size and the color that I wanted. And I knew the price. So I knew that. I just called before I drove over. And he was a nice guy. He goes in the back, brings out the sneakers, and what does he do? He opens up the box, pulls out the sneakers, and he goes, here they are. Now, I wasn't going to try them on, but mostly what was going through my mind was, dude, why are you touching my sneakers? You just infected my sneakers. And how did he not recognize that that could be now this was back in April, this was early, we were all new at this at the time. But my point was simple, we need to work through scenarios. How do we pick up the cues of our customers that tell us how they're feeling, or how do we ask the questions? I don't have a general answer because everyone's business is a little bit different, but and we can do this in the quick chats if you want to have the conversation with me. We can come up with what are some of the cues that you would look for to know how to respond to your customer in the way that they want to be treated.
So with that said, then you're saying that perhaps people should be flexible to maybe changing some routines, perhaps, because you mentioned creating a routine. Well, let's say we have someone whom is super conscious, wearing their mask, maybe wearing gloves, versus someone who doesn't believe they should be forced to wear a mask. So how would you treat, you know, if they both walked into the same building, you know, how would you treat that, or how would you go about that?
You know, I'm not a psychologist, but I would imagine that that some psychologists, there's probably a term for it, but something about alignment, that the customer has to know that we feel the way they do, or we respect the way that they feel. So if you see someone and they're, fidgeting with their mask, to acknowledge the uneasiness, to say, it's not comfortable, but, I understand I understand the importance of wearing it. Something that just cues, so that if the person is angry because they have to wear the mask, it might give them license to acknowledge that, and that you're not going to bite them for having said that. At the same token, if I'm the one who comes in and I'm wearing it and it's like, I just don't want to touch anything, your response might be, and I promise you, we're going to do this as a touch-free transaction so that, we keep you safe. By the way, when I went and bought those sneakers, what really set me off? Everything was pretty good. I was a little bit worried about the sneakers being touched, but then they made me pick up the pen to sign my credit card slip. Now, the counter to that would be, again, in that store, I'd say, where's the ritual where the employee, as they pick up the pen, wipes it with a Clorox cloth and hands it to me and says, would you please sign? We're just being safe. That little ritual would have meant so much to me in that moment. And maybe it wouldn't mean something to everyone, but that's why we build the rituals in to get that kind of a process in place.
Excellent. I love it. I'm going to have one more question, unless anyone else wants to pop one really quickly in the chat. You talked about the Girl Scout cookie exercise. Can you give us an example on how a company might use that in real life? Yeah.
So first off, get a box of Girl Scout cookies. Send it off to everyone on your team and do the exercise while everyone is munching down on their favorite Girl Scout cookie. I promise this will be the best sales training, motivational training you've ever done for your team. But it's the simple question. It's kind of like the scenarios that we were just talking about. It is, how do we respond to someone, or how do we brainstorm someone? Or the game that I typically play is you get the box of cookies, but you don't get to eat a cookie until you can brainstorm at least one other way to expand what we're doing. And, I've done this exercise with all kinds of companies, but honestly, the most fascinating example I had was a company that that works with the military and puts avionics into some of the most sophisticated Air Force jets that are out there. It's a very small market, and everything is RFP and driven. You would imagine the military is just like this. And so, for them, personal was like everything. But when we got into the conversation, we said, but what about confidence? What do they need to know about you that gives them confidence? And it turned out that he said, this is a really interesting point. We attend conferences with the people who eventually will be sending out these RFPs. We need to be at the conferences. We need to be speaking. We need to be sending articles to the people who are sending out these RFPs, letting them know that we are paying attention, not just to the work that they're asking to be done, but that we're looking at the horizon and that we're looking beyond, so that when they get our proposal, they have the confidence to know that we can take them to the next level, that we're not just responding with what we asked for, that we're responding with something beyond. Each of you, in whatever business you has that kind of ability. And even more so, I bet everyone here has an example of a customer who you've lost because they came back to you and they said, someone else can take us to the next level. They had something, and you went, no, they don't have anything that we don't have. They're not any smarter than us. Their equipment isn't any better. Their pricing isn't any better, but you lost it off of that intangible. Creating this kind of Velcro approach gives the many reasons for connection, and that's what's going to revive and sustain your customer connection.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Matt. So much information. If anyone else has a quick question, we have a few minutes. Feel free to put them in the chat. But wow, I definitely walked away with some great information and things to implement.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. That was really great. And again, I wrote down some notes because there were some key takeaways that I want to remember, and I'm looking forward to reviewing your presentation again. Mm-hmm. But your Girl Scout cookie experiment is the perfect example. Convenient, personal, confidence, special, and belonging. And the more of those connections that you can make, the more customer connection you're making. So, and I'll always remember Velcro for that, for that reason, to try to keep all that in mind. And then really, you really brought out, and we do have to understand this, understanding your customers' uneasiness with everything that's going on right now, or just even understanding what they're feeling and anticipating what they're feeling. And you did mention the various issues, and without anybody giving any particular opinions on some crucial issues that are out there today, I've been reading more and more about how audiences want brands to be taking to heart various issues. So it is something we have to think about, whether we want to or feel comfortable or not. We do have to keep it in mind. And again, that's anticipating our customers and what's on their minds. And I too have experienced finding pictures that I need to show teamwork and people shaking hands or clasping wrists and things like that. And I have stepped back and said, I can't use that picture. And then I have to go and find something else. So we do have to be cognizant of those kinds of things. And I love, and I'm stealing from you, imperative plan. So lots of really great information. Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate you coming. And it's so good to see you again. And then
Thank
just
you so much.
the last thing I want to say, so I will forward his presentation as well, but if you've already texted him or will be texting Matt, go ahead and do that, but I'll send you the presentation as well. And then just, we should have today or tomorrow, the next event up on the website, and that is Wednesday, September 23rd. Nathan Bailey from Hummingbird will be speaking on increase online sales by creating and protecting a compelling brand. So please join us. That is a lunchtime webinar. So perfect activity to do while you're taking your lunch break. Thank you, everybody. We thank our sponsors, and in particular, Taylor, once again, thank you for hosting us. If you have video needs, please give Taylor at Financial Potion a call. And Eileen is still online, so Bureau Communication Design for design needs. And then again, we thank our supporters. Our team does such great work and puts in a lot of time and effort, and we can't thank them enough. Hopefully we will be getting together back in person sometime soon. We don't know when that's going to happen, but we really appreciate you joining us online. And I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks for the lunchtime webinar. But thank you for joining us, everyone, and have a great rest of the day today.
Thanks, Matt. Great job.